Hey y'all, it's Convenient Keto in the house, and we're finally getting around to review Magic Spoon cereal today. And we've seen it everywhere, and we finally decided to go ahead and buy a set and take a look. First thing you'll notice is the names: cinnamon, frosted, cocoa, and fruity. So if you're gonna name your cereals after basically Fruit Loops, Cocoa Puffs, Frosted Cheerios, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch, people are gonna compare them to those things. So I have some high standards here and high hopes, so let's see how they turn out. Before we dig into nutrition, let's just take a look at this box. These are little, like, skinny cereal boxes. They're 7 ounces in size, 7 servings per container. Each one is a half cup or 28 grams or 1 ounce. So each of these little boxes, again, 7 servings. All right, so let's dig into the ingredients a little bit. This is their frosted flavor, and it's basically like their base, and everything else kind of just adds a little thing here and there. But the main thing you're gonna notice here is the main ingredient is protein. It's a protein blend of milk protein isolate as well as whey protein isolate, and that accounts for the 12 grams of protein. Next on the list is coconut oil, which is great. For this, it's 5 grams saturated, 6 grams total fat, so most of that's going to be from that coconut oil. You see some tapioca flour as well here, and that's not tapioca fiber or anything like that. It's just tapioca flour, so they're not going to play with the net carbs at all. So that's good, but there is some additional texture there to add to the protein, so it should be less protein bar-like. Okay, then let's touch on the sweetener as well. The sweetener blend is allulose, monk fruit, and stevia. Now, we've seen in the past that monk fruit and stevia kind of by themselves can be super sweet and lose their sweetness. That's where allulose comes into play. It has more of a natural sugar type of sweetness, so that should really improve the sweetness in the cereal. We also have some chicken root fiber in there. That accounts for some of that dietary fiber up there, that 2 grams. That adds a little bit to the texture as well as just a mild sweetness. And then again, natural flavors and salt. So nothing too crazy here. And then just a quick note about the carbs. You got 8 grams total here, 2 grams fiber, and 3 grams of added sugars. Now that 3 grams is the allulose. They're technically required to label allulose as added sugar, but allulose doesn't have a glycemic impact, so we can subtract that out when calculating our net carbs. So that's 8 minus 2 minus 3, which is 3 grams total. All right, and so like I was saying before, most of the ingredients are the same between the 3 flavors. They just kind of vary slightly. There's vegetable juice for color in the fruity one, as well as some natural flavors. For the cocoa powder and natural flavors, and then some cinnamon and natural flavors in the cinnamon one. So nothing too crazy going on. All right, so now let's take a look at the texture and shape. These are little Cheerio shapes, and you see these are the white ones, the frosted ones, and they're not super frosted, I guess. But you do see there that it's a decent size. If you're familiar with Cheerios, it's gonna be right up your alley. And just tried a few as well. The tapioca flour does help with the texture, right? It's not like super chewy and protein bar-y, but the overwhelming flavor, again, like, because of the protein and everything, the 12 grams per serving, is that of a protein bar, right? Like if you just ate a bunch of this, you'd feel like the aftertaste was like you just ate a protein bar. And then just wanted to show you real quick how much a serving size is. So this is 28 grams on a scale, and that is kind of like a standard mason jar. It's about halfway up. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of what you're looking at per serving size. So again, there's 7 per box. And yeah, they definitely got the texture right on this one. The tapioca flour really helps here. It tastes a lot and kind of chews like a Cheerio. There's a little bit of that sticky protein at the end, but overall very, very close in texture to Cheerios. Oh, and last thing I should mention about the nutrition is no sugar alcohols, right? So you got stevia, monk fruit, and allulose. So if you're sensitive to sugar alcohols, this is going to be a welcome sign for you. Okay, I lied. One more thing. This is nut and grain free, right? So a lot of people have expressed interest in stuff that doesn't include nuts, doesn't include seeds for whatever dietary reasons, and this also fits the bill for that. All right, next up is cinnamon. As you can see, it's evenly distributed, well coated, so you get a lot of that cinnamon flavor. It's not Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and that's because I think it's just not sweet enough. I almost kind of get like you get a real pronounced cinnamon taste. It's almost kind of like Apple Jacks a little bit, more so than Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But really nice cinnamon flavor and strong. Our next up is the cocoa flavor. You can see it's funny because there's like not coating in the middle, so you can see exactly where all the coating is. As opposed to like a cocoa cereal that you're used to where it's like either a ball or the whole thing's coated. But either way, it's all good. It's just cocoa powder, right? So you get a pronounced cocoa flavor. To me, it's not like sweet enough to compare to your Cocoa Puffs or whatever that kind of stuff is. But you do get that cocoa flavor. I think it'll hit the spot. Again, we haven't tried out our milk test yet, so once we try that, we'll get a better idea of how the taste is. But definitely just cocoa powder. Okay, and last but not least, the fruity flavor. There's some vegetable juice in here. I'm assuming it's beets because it's like bright pink. The smell's there from the natural flavor. I don't know what flavors they use. It's not as pronounced as like a Fruit Loops would be, but there's definitely a fruity taste. Okay, and last but not least, we have the fruity. There is some vegetable juice in there for color. You can see it is bright pink. So I'm thinking maybe it's like beets or something like that. But either way, the smell here is actually kind of like tropical. It's almost like a lychee kind of coconut smell. And then the fruit flavor that I just had, it's not like super, super strong or artificial, kind of like the cereal school or Fruit Loops might be, like that kind of in your face artificial fruit smell. It's much more subdued and subtle. I'd probably like it to be a little more pronounced on the fruity flavor side in this particular case. It's nice and sweet and it's pleasant, but it's not hitting that Fruit Loops kind of craving. And now that we've kind of just tasted them all just by hand, we're gonna do our little milk test here that we normally do. We always use Milkadamia unsweetened vanilla. Again, the key here is unsweetened, right? Most people on keto are not gonna be having like a sweetened milk or even whole milk. So we wanna see if this can stand on its own with the cereal without adding any sugar. So here it is with some milk, and as I expected, it's not really sweet enough for me without added sweetener. Again, that I can just throw in some stevia or some other keto-friendly sweetener to sweeten up the milk a little bit. But on its own, it lacks a little bit of that sweetness compared to like a Sola cereal, which is super sweet. And so it's kind of like intended to be mixed with unsweetened nut milks. If you're buying this for your kids and they still drink like whole milk, I think it'll be sweet enough with normal milk, but definitely not unsweetened varieties. The texture though is right spot on, even with the milk, even after it's been sitting a little bit, definitely has that Cheerio texture. And here is the cocoa one. I actually like this one with the milk. I think maybe if you don't like super sweet chocolate in general, you might be okay with this. But again, if you're looking for that super sweet Cocoa Puff type experience, you're gonna wanna add some sweetener to your milk. And lastly, here's that cinnamon. And I think this one actually, since the cinnamon flavor is so pronounced, this is probably one of my favorites as far as just with the milk, because the flavor really comes out, and the spice of the cinnamon complements the subtle sweetness. So really nice. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. That was Magic Spoon. And again, there's 4 flavors: cinnamon, frosted, fruity, and cocoa. So first in the summary is texture. It's very close to Cheerios texture, which is almost perfect. Just that it leaves like a little bit of that sticky protein bar residue in your teeth. Like right now, there's a bunch stuck in my teeth actually. So for taste, I think the most flavorful one in my opinion is cinnamon. It has a lot of cinnamon, so it doesn't skimp on that. The base is frosted, right? And we said before, there's 12 grams of protein. It's gonna taste a lot like a protein bar. I don't get that out of everything, but I think the most pronounced one is frosted, the one that suffers from the protein bar taste. Everything else, they do a good job of masking that. I think the tapioca flour really helps. The fruity is kind of a subdued tropical flavor, and then cocoa is just straight cocoa powder. And then another part of that taste is sweetness, right? There's allulose in there, so it has a nice lasting sweetness, but it's just not sweet enough. This is probably one of those things where if they had added sugar alcohols, it would have probably helped a lot to make it a little bit sweeter. But they didn't, probably to make it maybe kid friendly and just, you know, to appeal to that crowd. So just keep that in mind when you eat this with whole milk or real milk, such as for kids. It's going to taste great. With an unsweetened nut milk alternative, you're going to want to sweeten that puppy up. All right, last thing to note is cost. We just have to bring it up anytime it's kind of a higher cost. And these are $11 a box, and you have to, I think, buy 4, so it's like $45 for an order. That's gonna be kind of pricey. You know, if you're looking for something to just literally, you want to chew on something that has that cereal-like texture, pretty close taste, not super sweet, but it just kind of just gets you there. You know, this may work for that. But again, it's $45 for a pack of 4. So it is a bit steep, but if nothing else works for you, if you can't handle like the nut alternatives, like Sola cereal that has like granolas and seeds, then, you know, this is gonna be an option for you. So anyways, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think. Give it a try. Magic Spoon. Anyways, that was Magic Spoon. You can buy it directly on their website at magicspoon.com. If you give it a try, let us know what you think. Thanks.